Whoa, did you know that Waterdeep Dragon Heist is one of the best modules in the world? And I'm gonna talk about the last of the factions in the campaign. Stick around. Welcome to Waterdeep. Yeah, hi. Today we're gonna be talking about the last three factions. Two factions and one guild, because I think that the guild belongs, you know. This is the last in our series of three. I might revisit this at some point because I realised there's things that I forgot to talk about. So yeah, be ready for that. In any case, I'm going to be discussing to you guys about, you know, outside the box stuff to do with the last three factions that I haven't touched yet. Again, two factions and one guild. One man, one beholder, disintegration. TPK. Yeah, hopefully you guys will stick around for this one, because then it will complete the factions series and maybe I'll start getting up to date with Chapter 2. We've been on Chapter 2 for so long, and I haven't even talked about the frippin' rival thing with the tavern. I got a lot to talk about with Dragon Heist. Ironically, it only goes to 1 to 5, but there's definitely a lot to talk about with it. So, the first one I'm going to be talking about, because we're doing this in alphabetical order, is the Brigandarthay. Brigandarthay. The drow one. So, I think that this is a key component. To join the faction, a party member must be a drow. That's a requirement, because that's what they are. They are a group of drow. And I think that makes a lot of sense, but I would maybe recommend allowing other races, but maybe not all of them. I'm trying to think. Maybe like the vagabond type races that are identified as evil and stuff. So drow, tieflings, half-orcs, those sorts of races, etc, etc. I think that would be a little more fair. But maybe they'll have like a lower ranking. They'll be looked down on a bit more. I'm not sure. I think it's perfectly fine for it to only target drow, but if you really want to use this faction, it's tough to do so without a drow in the party. So, kind of sucky. The missions are pretty cool. A lot of them are like espionage type stuff and rooting out corruption within their own ranks, as well as causing some mischief in other ones. Some of them are vague. There's like, oh, give a handkerchief to a kid, or take a handkerchief from a kid, one of the two. I think that's cool. I think it definitely sets up what sort of faction they are without actually getting the party to do anything that they understand the repercussions of. I think something interesting about Dragon Heist and other modules as well is that they'll give you what you need and they won't go between the lines, so that you yourself can also figure that out as you go. And I think it's entirely up to your interpretation what a lot of these missions mean and are. There's a lot more context under the surface of the paragraph or two that gets given to you for the quest, etc, etc. Also, the Brigandarthay is the most rewarding in terms of what it gives the party, because they can get like donations of money and stuff like that, and the quests often result in actual material stuff. Most of the faction missions just give you renown, whereas when you give players gold or potions or magic items, they feel a little more inclined to keep going. Force Grey gives the party magic items sometimes. Other than that, most of the factions don't give back. It's just kind of like a badge of honor, and you get privileges, which the party never really properly use. The only times I've properly seen the party use all of their privileges is with the Xanathar, because there's so many and they're all so good. I think the fact that this faction is ruled by one of the main villains of the campaign is also very cool, and it might even result in them working together with the party in the end, because I believe near the end of the game Jarlaxle turns up to help the party if they're members of the Brigandarthay, to my knowledge. I'm not 100% sure there, because I haven't got to the end in a while. Most Dragon Heist campaigns that I've ran either fall through or just change into something else. But that's because I get bored of things easily. We've ran it through level 1 to 5 once. Still fun though. Next up we have the Xanathar Guild, which you don't get quests for, they don't find you, and there's nothing written in the book to help a DM get a player into the Xanathar's Guild. It lists benefits and stuff, and the same as all the others, but in Chapter 2 there's no mention of them, which I think kind of makes sense, because the previous chapter is you messing with their business and you raiding their flipping hideout. But at the same time, I think it's still cool for a party to want to, you know, be a part of it. It would be difficult to do so if any survivors of the first dungeon, the hideout, there we go. I think that after that, if there's no witnesses, you could totally, if one of the party members are playing a monstrous race, hit them up, you know? Get that Minotaur in your group, get that freaking Orc in your group, get that Goblin in there. And that could make them feel much more included, and it's pretty cool. Their assignments, I would say, for general guidelines, could perhaps be, I don't know, messing with the public, laying the seeds of destruction in the Black Network, and it can even result to later quests of full-on raids of Zentrim hideouts and stuff that you might be able to construct and stuff. That could be very awesome. And they could even get monster companions. They could get gazers and spectators and frickin' Gorths on their team. How cool is that, right? Minotaurs running around with them, killing shit. Sounds fun as hell. It's just a shame that the module doesn't really give you too much there. But, yeah, I get how it could be tricky. I think that could also be a bargaining chip for the Xanathar itself. Like, if it's in a sticky situation, it can just look at the party and go, I'll let you be members of my guild. And then I'll give you most of the money. And just give them a really high-ranking position instantly, out of fear. And then murder them all. No, not murder them all. I think that's a bit too brutal. But definitely keep their eye on them at all times and have a gazer or a spectator just stealthily haunt them the entire time. Finally, quite possibly the biggest deal faction in the campaign. They are the most involved and the most important. Most likely. In most playthroughs of this game. The Zentrim. They are mercenaries, evil mercenaries, but they advertise themselves as normal mercenaries, but really they're willing to do anything and they'll fucking kill you. They are quite possibly the most deadly group because they themselves are too complicated to understand who their leader is. I don't know. The Zentrim's loose. It's really weird and loose with how it works. There's like several divisions. Some don't know each other. The Doom Raiders know of Manchun, but maybe regular grunts don't. They're just in it for the money. They probably report to the Doom Raiders, etc., etc. It's very unclear on how... Maybe it is, and I just haven't properly read into it, but how it all fits together, which I think is a better way of running it, regardless of if you know all of it or not. The grunts not knowing who their leader is beyond just, it's Davil. It's fucking Davil. I think that's cool as hell. A faction membership to the Zentrim can be an interesting thing. It would be interesting to come by. It's unlikely that a party will contain a genuinely evil player character, or however, a more morally grey one, definitely. They definitely try and hit up a rogue of a party if they had one. And yeah, I think that could be an interesting thing. Get someone in the Zentrim if you want them to be. Their messaging system's cool as shit. They're flying snakes. That's awesome. I love that. I love that flying snakes thing. And also their chain of leadership with the Doom Raiders is very cool because it feels a little more personal, you know? A lot of the quests pertain to each of them. I think that Schemo appears in one. Maybe Ziraj does as well. I know Ziraj appears in other quests as well. Ziraj is a big deal. You gotta fight that guy a lot sometimes. But yeah, it's a cool-ass faction. The quests are interesting. They're some of the more active and involved ones because the Zentrim have one of the biggest stakes in Dragon Heist out of all the factions and leaders and stuff like that, which I think is cool as hell because it gets your party more involved in the greater plot of things and lets them read between the lines a little more, you know? I think that the benefits it gives with each member of the Doom Raiders functioning in different ways, the party being able to hire thugs and bandits and stuff is very cool. Could definitely clutter up initiative a little bit if they did, but other than that, no downside there, apart from that. Schemo can sell potions and shit, I believe, or get them found or something. And Davil can get them important auditions with important figures, which is a very cool thing to have in your D&D game with a party who wants to talk to the leaders, and there's pretty much no feasible way to do that, but then Davil Starsong comes in with his massive-ass loot, and it's just like, hey, I can do that. And then they're like, woo! I think that the Zentrum can definitely carry over beyond level 5, one of the best out of all the factions. Because even if they, lose in the grand scheme of things, the way that Dragon Heist is written, none of the villains should die at 5th level. So I think it says something, with the final encounter, all but one villain doesn't appear. Jarlaxle appears for the final fight personally, and if he dies, he gets brought back. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And therefore, most of the factions need longevity beyond 5th if you want to keep the campaign going from 5th. And the Zentrum can do just that. They have enough power to pull them through. The quests that you can make them do are very morally ambiguous. Some of them can be good, some of them can be bad. So now that I've touched on all of the factions, I did also want to offer a bit of a more general advice on specific factions. Not specific factions, general factions. Oops! So I think that the main takeaway from this is that there's a lot of factions and you might want to use a lot of them. Don't overload the players with them. I think 2 is the lucky number with factions. It can definitely make a party member or 2 feel a little more included. But don't give like a faction for each party member. I've made the mistake of overloading them with every sort of faction in the universe just because the party met the prerequisites. And it was a lot to handle. 1 or 2 at chapter 2 is the soft spot. Maybe introduce a 3rd at chapter 4. Maybe. But other than that, don't overload the factions. They could certainly oppose the party, but having a party member be a member of like 3 factions at once is going to be a bit not good, I think that also factions can fuel a lot more than just quests. You can use them to do any number of things in the story, and you can also use them to narrate things and have things happen in the background that the party isn't even a part of. Doing this is a very risky move. I generally like to make my party present for a lot of the events of the game, but there could be parts where the faction comes to them and they're like, hey, so we did a mission with another group and they're all dead. Can you go and sort that out, please? That's great. You get to pick up other people's slack and you feel cooler for doing it because you just killed all those guys and other people couldn't who are higher rank than you. In any case, thank you, yes, you personally, for watching. If you like what you saw, make sure you click the button that tells me that you did like it, as well as also subscribing so that you can have notifications and stuff by hitting the bell whenever you want a new video to come out. We do them Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays now, which is pretty epic if you ask me. We have a Discord which you can join and you can chat to us either in the comments or there. I like to keep the conversation going beyond just that and try and engage in the fans as much as possible. In any case, thank you very much for watching and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Brofist. A Xanathar membership could be very cool. Ooh, I want to do that in the next one that I run of Dragon Heist. I want to do it so bad.